Okay, ladies and gentlemen, hello out there. Okay, we're going to start, and those who have to move around a little bit, that's fine. Just go ahead and do it, but don't clink your glass too loud. Over the years, we have really had to fight to get our gala off. We've had ice storms. We've had governor's detail that said it was too slick to drive him down, so we found out at 4 in the afternoon he wasn't coming for the gala that night, and he was the speaker. We've had COVID, we've had strong winds, we've had just about everything you can think of to make it difficult. But tonight, we are blessed with lovely weather inside. When you step outside, it's a little bit tougher out there, but that's no big deal. Just when you go home tonight, watch your step and watch your driving. So, but if you're going to come out on a cold night, you might as well go to some place that's special. And so tonight you've chosen to come right here to the place that the readers and fans of Convention South Media Group, they vote for the best meeting place in the South. And they picked Havelock Tourist Event Center. And that's incredible, but that's not the best part. They've done it now 4 years in a row. So Pam, the lady in the back who won't want to even stand, get out of the shadow there, Pam. She runs the Tourist Event Center, and that's 4 years in a row with she and her staff have done an incredible job. So thank you, Pam. And of course, all of you are here for more than just a beautiful setting, a delicious meal, because smoke always guarantees that, and to find out what in the world a view from above means. But you're probably here because you want to learn a little bit more about the Eastern Carolina Aviation Heritage Foundation. So we're going to tell you actually a lot more, but it'll take some time. So I hope you're comfortable. We have title sponsors tonight. We have one that's been a title sponsor since we started, and that's Carolina East Health System, and we thank you very much for doing that. We also have WCTI News Channel 12, and Donnie's out doing a newscast right now, trying to tell everybody else in town to come here, but there aren't that many seats left, so I hope they don't all come at once. And then there's Susan and I do it. So, but we have some special guests tonight, and I want to introduce some of those. So, NC Representative Steve Tyson and his wife Jana. Steve, nice to have you here. Colonel Mike Huber. Huber was the former CEO of Cherry Point. He was here as our guest speaker last year, and right now he is flying for American Airlines. So if you want to fly somewhere safe, fly with Mike. Of course, we have our great mayor, Will Lewis. We have County Commissioners, Sherry Hunt is here. We also have Commissioner E.T. Mitchell. And we have from this, that's the county, and then the city. I'm going to give you a bunch, and if you clap for every one of them, you're going to have to get breakfast, and I don't have breakfast for you, so we're going to do them all at the end. City Commissioner Danny Walsh. We have Havelock City Commissioner Brenda Wilson. She's the pro tem for the mayor. We have Cynthia Evans Robinson. We have Mark Larkin. Chris McGee and his wife Hazel are the city managers. Well, his wife's not, but he is, so that's fair. And the assistant city manager is Cindy Morgan. And the executive director for the FRC East, the new executive director, because they finally kicked Mark Mino upstairs. He was getting too senior, so they bolted him away. But David Rose, are you here, David? So that's the guy you'll get to know, because he's sort of number 5,700 in the FRC lineup, I think. But you'll get to know him. He's a good guy. And his wife, Stacy. And Dr. Statz is here with his wife, Dawn, president of the community college. and Dr. Tanya McGee, who's the Craven Community College Dean of the Havelock campus. And then last but not least, and this we didn't find out until not too long ago, we have Lieutenant Colonel Landis and Major Gorick, who are the CO and XO at CNAT, which is the Center for Naval Aviation Training aboard Cherry Point. And we have 40 young Marines from the Single Marine program that are here tonight. All you guys stand up, all the Single Marine people, stand up, please. Thank you. We always tell them it'd be a shame to be stationed at Cherry Point in this lovely area all around it and not get to know people. So we try to invite them to our functions so they can sit here and talk to you. So if you see one of them, please spend a few minutes at the break at dinner or something and chat with them and tell them what's going on in the area and get them excited about staying here when they retire. And then, of course, we have our sponsors, our ECAHF members, history buffs, media, community friends, Marines and sailors, students. We even have Charles Lindbergh. He's kind of disguised as Tim Clark here tonight. Are you back here, Tim? Oh, yes. Hi, Tim. And his wife is with him, which is a good thing because he gets lost in a bathroom. But Kate can take care of him. And if you fall into one of those groups or you even are associated with one of those groups, please stand. Any one of the ones I mentioned. So I mentioned almost everybody. Stand. All of you stand. Everybody stand. Everybody stand and stay up. Get up. And now that all of you are standing, we're going to do what's fitting and proper for any gathering of patriotic citizens, and that is we're going to pledge allegiance to our flag. But I always like to think of the freedoms that we have when you say those 31 simple words that mean so much. On this coming Sunday, we'll remember something that happened 80 years ago. 80 years from now, and it's kind of hard to think that far back, although there are a couple in here, Jimmy, who might have been around at that time, but I won't mention Jimmy Green. But it's interesting to see what has gone on. My last float, we got off the ship on a little island in the Pacific and walked up the beach. And it was crazy. Every time you took a step, you went backwards because the sand just kept giving way. And then we walked up this small little mountain up there and looked out over the land, and there was an airport. We saw that airport, and we said, wow, that would be really handy if we could have a place where our Air Force planes can come in, Army Air Force, and land to do their bombing missions in Japan where they were trying to go, and to get back when things turned to worms on them. And then we looked back around the top of the mountain, and there was a flagpole. And that was a flagpole that was planted there 80 years ago on Sunday by about 40 young Marines who were told to go up that mountain, take it, and put a flag up. So they went over the same beach we did with all the sand, but people were shooting at them. And then they walked up the mountain, and people were shooting at them. And then they got on top, and somebody shot at them again. It's crazy stuff. But they did it. So sometimes when we think, boy, times are tough, I'm not sure any of this stuff was worth doing and no one's going to pay any attention. They were tough, and we are paying attention. So please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. And now it is my pleasure to introduce someone who needs no introduction, and you hear that too often, but this one is true now, and that's Mayor Will Lewis, who would like to welcome you to his fair city.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you for coming this evening. The ECAHF Foundation started a minute ago, and I think Tom and I are the last two that were there day one. And I often talk about the ECAHF as the kind of like the committee on the hill. And any of y'all that serve anywhere that has committees, and if y'all that have worked with me know that I call a committee the kind of place where you design a horse, but it ends up looking like a camel, right? That's what committees typically do. But the ECAHF is one that is full of people with a lot of passion, and they're centered around a mission that is incredibly good for all of Eastern North Carolina, and they stay focused on that mission year after year after year after year. We've had thousands of kids that have been through our STEM program and our fly-in to get excited about STEM education and find careers in that path and fill our workforce and the workforce that this whole country needs. And that all started from a small Eastern Carolina, small committee with a large name, the Eastern Carolina Aviation Heritage Foundation right here in Havelock. And they do all of that with what happens at this gala. And so I really want to say not just welcome, but thank you to each and every one of you for coming here, because just participating in the gala, whether you buy a raffle ticket or a silent auction or you bought your ticket or sponsored a table, everything that's raised here tonight is what's propelling them to do that good work every year on behalf of Havelock and the rest of our area. So thank you to each and every one of you. Have a great time tonight, and we're glad you're here.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We do have a couple of opportunities for you tonight to help us on our way to doing great stuff to get kids excited. You can join the foundation, and that's easy. You just fill out one of the cards that's on your table there and sign up for it, write a check, and life is good. Or you can purchase some chances to win some neat things tonight. And we do have some neat things. We have a book called The Aviators. We have a Pepsi can model airplane. We have 2 rounds of golf at Carolina Colors. We have a really nice, if you looked when you came in, and if you didn't see it before, look at it at dinner tonight. Walk in the door, turn right out there, and there's a board about that big, and it's a 3D printed board with all of the logos that the kids designed in the summer camp this year. So each of the 5 teams designed a logo, and then the Fab Lab took that and etched it into a big piece of wood. So that's one of the gifts you could have tonight. And if there's another one that happens to be a scenic 30-minute ride around the area in an airplane with Adam Persky as the pilot, which is pretty risky, but it's still, no, he's a good pilot. And then the board member, if you happen to join tonight, or you renew your membership tonight, or you have during the year, then we have a hover desk pen, and we'll do a drawing for that at the end of the. You just kind of set it there, and it just hovers, kind of like a helicopter, but it's not noisy, which is a good thing. So we're going to show you a promotional video, and if you would run that for us, please, just a little bit about what we've been doing, and then we'll talk a bit about it.
Eastern Carolina is home to over 100 years of aviation history. From the early 1900s, with Wilbur and Orville Wright taking flight at Kitty Hawk, to the turn of the century with our beloved Pedro, to the dawn of a new era with the next generation F-35 Joint Strike Fighters. Our community supports and promotes this heritage, and Eastern Carolina Aviation Heritage Foundation wants to ensure the tradition continues for generations to come. Join us as we host a series of events for people of all ages. Experience the heritage, community, and patriotism we share with MCAS Cherry Point and make marine aviation history come alive. Our partnership between the military and civilian communities is unlike any other, and we count on you for your support. Become a member today to be a part of the amazing journey.
Looks like I have control again. Great. Thanks, Pete. The slide obviously is what you're here for tonight, to learn a little bit about us and what we do, and we're going to do that. We have a series of speakers. We've had some great ones. Tonight's kind of an exception because it's all we could get. But now, to be fair, we had been talking to NASA for almost a year, and they said we're going to try to get an astronaut to come and be our speaker for the night. Turned out they couldn't get one. But all during that time, we looked at one of our board members and said, yeah, you're very smooth and you're doing some great stuff on the board, so could you be prepared just in case? And he said no, so we roughed him up, and then he said yes. And he's going to be your speaker tonight, Guy Nelson. He's a great guy, and you will enjoy it, and you'll learn about some of the stuff that people in New Jersey complain about. But we won't do that because you don't have to look up. Okay, let's see what else we have here. Okay, that's a slide of our last year thing. And last year we had Colonel Huber talk to us, and he gave us an interesting story about how you go from Idaho City, Idaho, to or Idaho Falls, Idaho, through the Marine Corps flight school. You go off and you fly several combat tours with different type aircraft. You become the political military planner at the Department of State. You become the Marine Corps' national deputy for the F-35B and the F-35C. And then finally, after all those years, he got an assignment to come to heaven. So that's when he came here. And he was then the CEO of MCS Cherry Point. So, Michael, it's nice to have you back again, sir. He almost made me want to start my career over, but I said, nah, I'm just too old to start that over. This is our camp, and this is our 9th elementary school camp, and we have a camp each year, usually with 8 to 10 kids in each group, 5 groups, and they're in this room right here. So we separated up with some barriers and things so the kids can sit here, and then we keep the front open so they can do all the crazy stuff. Like this last one, we had drones. So they're flying drones in here. FRC brought a big cage and set it up right over there. So with the more sophisticated ones, they had the kids sitting inside there or sitting just outside and controlling their drone on the inside, doing loops and all kinds of goofy stuff. And the rest of them were building obstacle courses and things. And their final grade on this was to do a run through an obstacle course without bumping anything, and we timed it. And it was amazing what kids can learn during that time. And when they weren't actually flying the drones, then they were riding the simulator, which is out in the front lobby if you want to try that out during the break. Or they were playing with Oculus, or they were building some things with computers on Legos and making things that rolled and did all kinds of interesting stuff. But they were some busy young folks, and you can see a couple of the activities we had there. And at the very bottom, you'll see there's a helicopter, because this was a hovercraft hero type things. So one of our old helpers, who is now a board member, Ed Hughes, drug his OH-6 in here and let the kids get on it. And we talked all about what it is that lets them fly. Talked about lifting things on the wings and did all of that. And then the kids got to go out to the Fab Lab, and the Fleet Readiness Center East has this incredible Fab Lab that you can go inside, and they tow it around, and you can 3D print anything you want. I could make another Colonel Huber, just like that. It'd be easy. Isn't that right, David? I could do that? Yeah, he said I could, so we can do that. So next year we're going to have a 3D printed Colonel Huber here. But it's fun, and the kids just have a great time, and they work in their small groups. Like I said, 8 to 10 is normal. But this year we had so many applicants, we asked the teachers, could you please just take 12? So we had 60 kids in this. You can imagine how much fun that is when you're trying to make sure they're all wearing goggles and safety equipment when drones are starting to go around. So it was a treat. It was really, really a good camp, and we enjoyed it a lot. Each group has a teacher, a certified teacher, one or two engineers from FRC East who stay with the kids the whole time, and then probably 2 volunteers, sometimes just one, high school kids or early college east. So you got 4 or 5 adults working with these kids, and we don't answer any questions. We just take their question and turn it around into another question and say, well, what if you did this? And then they go back with their group and sort that out, and they learn. And they have to keep stats. They have sheets, and so when they try something and it works, that's great. It gets a plus mark or a minus. If it doesn't work, they don't do that again. So it's a great way for the kids to learn a little business along with a little bit of aero and have an awful lot of fun. And that's what they do. Okay, that's next year's. It's going to be missions. It's going to be defying gravity. See if I can get that to go. Yep. So that's our 2025 camp, and it's going to be good. The teachers who taught the class are writing a new syllabus for this. So it's going to be really exciting. The kids are going to have a great time. And those are the dates. And oh, by the way, registration is open now. So if you would like your youngsters or you're going to have grandkids in and you don't think you can take care of them for the whole day, bring them to our half-a-day camp, and we will entertain and keep them busy, I promise you. We did our fall partnership event. That's a fun one because we invite the ECAHF members and those who've been supporting us doing some special things, and we invite them to come in and usually set up in one half of the room or the other, and then they get to do the same thing the kids did during the camp. So this year we set up an obstacle course, and they had to drive their drones through it. There were rings and tables they had to go under and things to go over and around and all that stuff. So the adults had to do that. You think they did as well as the kids? Not on your life. Not a one. But they do all this in about an hour, and that's between eating, because we have several restaurants in the area that bring food in for us. And so they just come in and have a couple of beers if they want, which makes their hovercraft or their flying all that much better. And then they try to run the obstacle course. But it's really it's an interesting time. And it's a great way for them to see what the kids are doing and get to try it themselves and just see how it works. Our fly-in. The fly-in is always a great time except for this year. And somebody invited Debbie. That was a mistake. That's Hurricane Debbie. So we had to cancel it. And we just couldn't do it because it was awful weather. And we talked to Donnie Cox, Channel 12, who works with us all the time, and others, and they said, no, you don't want to have people out there. So we canceled that, which is a shame. So I'll show you some of the slides of what we did the year before and what we would have done. If you look in that lower right-hand quadrant there, you can see some of the activities we do. I mean, we open this place up, and it's full, and then we open up the outside, and we'll get 300 to 400 kids and parents and families that come out here, and they can touch and feel all kinds of stuff. They have drones they can operate. They have livestock they can play with. The police and fire bring their machines to show you how they can get into a car if it's been crashed, how they put flames out. EOD brings over their stuff, and you can actually run the robot and see how you would pick up a bomb and go inside of a suitcase and take it apart. All those things the kids get to do. So it's a great show, and it's really a shame that we couldn't do it, but sometimes you just get aced, and that's what happened to us on that one, and we're not inviting Debbie anymore. Now, camps. This is the part that I think is really important. Dr. McGee, where are you sitting? Oh, she couldn't make it tonight. She runs the camps on the community college campus here in Havelock, and she's the dean of that campus. And you can see the top ones are the ones that she runs, and we coordinate very carefully with her so that we're not duplicating what we do. But our elementary school camp, which is what we do here, rising 4th through 6th, and then after they finish that, then they go over and do the middle school camp, and then a high school camp, and then she has some specialty camps that you can see listed up there. But it's all very well coordinated, and it's great. And we're most appreciative of the community college working carefully with us. And the long-range thought about how we do all this is, if you get kids really excited while they're in elementary school, and then you keep them excited when they go to middle school, and then you keep them excited when they go to high school, and then you take them over to the community college and they can study whatever they want, or they can go to the Institute of Aeronautical Technology right here on the Havelock campus, or they can do all kinds, and then they can walk across the campus and go to NC State and get a degree. It used to be just a mechanical engineering degree. Now you can get a mechanical engineering or a double E, electrical engineering degree. And then you walk out of there with your cap and all, and you walk across the street, and the Fleet Readiness Center, he says, "Welcome aboard." What a great idea if we can do that, because kids who grow up here are used to this. If you bring somebody in who's never lived here before, they look at it and say, yeah, but the family says, what am I going to do now? But if you've lived here all your life, you know what you're going to do, because you already love all the things we have, the beaches, the trails, all the forest, all the great things that are here. So we think if you can get kids and get them excited and make them want to stay here, we're going to really help make this whole area grow. So that's a big part of it, and the community college and the FRC are all in NC State. Where's Dr. Fortney? Are you here? There he is. Okay, he's hiding back there, but he runs the NC State part of it, and he's really, it's a good team effort. So thank you. Okay, saving the dates here. Which one have I got on that one? Yeah, that's the STEM night. That's fine. That's a free one, and that's the one we got stormed out of last time, the fly-in. And then you got the fall partnership, and then a gala next year. We're going to still shoot for February. It used to work a long time ago, so I don't know if we'll have to move it, or it seems to be one of the quieter times of the year. So we'll probably try it once more, but once we know who the speaker is going to be, then we'll send memos out to all of you, and you can take a look and see how it works. Several years ago, we started an honor roll. Somebody said you should do that to honor those who have been involved in aviation and who are no longer with us, and you can see it's also up here on the board, or those that are still with us, but they're doing special things. So we've done that, and these are the ones that we honor no longer, or we remember, and these are the ones that we honor. So that's what we have. These are our sponsors, and you can't do much without sponsors helping you do a lot of things. Carolina East, again, they do more than just send some money for a sponsor like this, but they take really good care of our troops and families that are aboard MCS Cherry Point or Camp Lejeune, anywhere in this area, so they take good care of those folks, and we thank them a lot for all the things that they do. And then you have WCTI Fox. There's Johnny Cox sitting right here. When we have a STEM event, he's here. When we have a fly-in, he's here. When our summer camp kids got to sit on the floor over here and talk to the commander of the space station live, when he's twirling his microphone with no cord, just sort of flipping it around and answering their questions. It was amazing. He was sitting right here with us. So WCTI has been a great one. And then there's a couple more people up there. Okay, who do we have now? Our gold sponsors. And you can see these are all folks that have been involved, most of them for a long time. IBX, Interbanks Media, Havelock, of course. The Flame Smoke just never lets us down. And then NSI. So NSI is celebrating their 30th year, which is pretty darn special for them. Okay, who else do we have there? Silver sponsors, you can see the whole list of them. Once again, great folks who help us a lot. Our bronze sponsors. And then a whole slew of people who are the table sponsors. And you can look on your tables and you'll see who it is that's sponsoring your table. And we just can't do very much without having great sponsors. So thanks to all of them. I'll save that for a little bit. The board. The other thing you need, in addition to good sponsors and people who want to come and play, is you have to have a good board. And we have just that. I'm going to read their names because I think you ought to know who they are. They're all volunteers. None of them make a penny, but they work really hard. Ray Dunn, Guy Nelson, Dr. Bill Fortney, Jimmy Green. Two of our new ones, Ben Hancock and Ed Hughes, both pilots, one Army and one Marine. Will Lewis, Brenda Wilson, sorry Ed, Chris McGee, Adam Persky, Richard Hazlett, who's also the curator for all the aircraft and the displays out here, so he works especially hard. Barry Fetcher, who is stuck up near Pinehurst right now, iced in. Rhonda Murray, Mary Beth Fennell, and then we have another gentleman who the Havelock board will take a look at, and he'll probably be one of our board members here shortly, sometime around next Monday. And then there's some folks that are, even though they're not officially members of the board, we couldn't function without them. Pam Holder and her team are just incredible. She's got a small TEC staff, Diana Vaccarelli, Laura Duran, Ushima Turner, Karen Swanner, Joe Hennessy, Sherry Brody, Michelle Burgess, Letitia Theory, Jessica McManus, and for the gala we have some more volunteers, and it just seems like the list keeps going. I said, can you send me just a few people at work? And she said, yeah, give me all of them. From Havelock, they have other jobs, but they come over here when they can. Kim Walters, J.C. McVicker, Sue Steinhauser, Tiffany Baker, Annette Fryer, Carolyn Clements, Kelvin Hardesty, and then we have a graphic designer, Brett King, a photographer, Greta Meadows, videographer, Todd Jackmiak, and he also does our summer camp. What we do now in summer camp, instead of having parents kind of crowd in the back and the kids are paying attention to them instead of what they're doing, we just record the whole thing and then put it live on tape or live on the video, and they can also tape it if they want and show grandma and grandpa and send it to them for a Christmas present. It's a cheap way out. Not for us, but for them. And then we have Charlotte Boulia, who also helps a lot, and in the corner, Pete Benson, who always tries to teach us how to use his expensive gear, and we always manage to goon it up. But I hope you can tell we've been busy. It has been an incredible busy year. Even losing the fly-in, we have still been busy. And I didn't even mention some of the other things that we do, like National Night Out. We take a booth over there. We play with the kids, and it's just a lot of fun. TEC had a great STEM day this year, and we took a team over there and worked with them on their STEM day, and they had, I don't know, hundreds of kids from the schools, same time as the air show, came in on Friday and had a great show, and that was really fun. So thanks to all those who have participated. We are frugal, but we do have to, yeah, we're frugal. We don't have anything up here. So we try to keep things going, and we try to do as much free stuff for the kids as we can. The fly-in that they come in for, we give them hot dogs, we give them chips, sodas, water, all those kinds of things. They all go away with some kind of a gift, either a kite or a whirly gig or something, but they all go away, and we do that because we think it's important. So anybody who ever wants to get involved with that, they're more than welcome to call, and we can hook you up with a helper. If you were to join now with one of those forms on your desk, or you renew, you're going to get one of our coins, and each year we have a different coin. It's always one side that's got our F-35 and our logo, and then on the other side is something that represents what it is you're going to hear about. In the case of tonight, it's a view from above. So that's available there. And again, if you were the one who does it tonight and you're drawn, then you're going to get a desk cover pen, which is pretty neat. And let's see. That's the other thing. The whole goal is to help kids, and that's what we do. We try to get them excited, and you can see the looks on them here. When you're gathering them all up at the end of the camp or something, you got 50 or 60 kids there, and they're all smiling, and the parents come in to sign them in and out because we're very careful about not losing any children, which would be kind of not a good thing. But they all say the kids just having so much fun, and I always at the end of it say, well, yeah, I'm sorry, but you're the ones who are going to get it now, because we have asked them questions and we have ginned them up to drive you bonkers all summer long. And then we'll see some of the parents later, they'll say, yeah, you're right, the kids asked questions about everything. But now they're learning how to do this, and they're showing us some things, which is exciting. So if we get kids excited, then we have succeeded, and that's our goal. So I would like now, if you would, Donnie Cox, would you like to deliver the invocation for us, sir? Oh, you can.
Just need a moment, sir.
Okay.
Good evening. Oh, really? That's where we're going to start? Hey, good evening. I'm Mark Mino, former executive director at FRC East, former board member as well. I just wanted to take a moment, and I promise it'll be a slightly shorter moment than the general's moment.
That's fair.
Yeah, so there, finally got a little reaction. Good. Thanks, sir. Appreciate that. Every year, North Carolina Science, Math, and Technology Center offers awards that recognize individuals and organizations whose extraordinary contributions to science, math, and technology education in North Carolina help advance the mission of the center and STEM across the state. Nominations for the awards are accepted each fall. Recipients of the awards are honored in the spring at a celebration of science, math, and technology at the state level. Recipients of these awards are considered to be unmatched in their dedication to STEM education and to the students of North Carolina. One of those annual awards offered in North Carolina's SMT Center is the Champion of STEM. When you hear the word champion, you think about maybe someone who's achieved a title, but the word champion in this case is much more. It embodies selflessness, it embodies those fighting just not for themselves but for others. And this particular award kind of follows that. So the Champion of STEM, that award recognizes and honors the individual who's made extraordinary contributions to advancing STEM education and fostering youth engagement in science, technology, engineering, and math in our state. And it happens, we're fortunate tonight to share the room with an individual who embodies the spirit of a STEM champion.
Good evening. I'm Randall Lewis. I'm the Eastern North Carolina Tech Bridge Director, and I'm the STEM Outreach Lead at FRC East. The individual we're referring to tonight has used his platform to advocate for STEM education and mentorship, particularly here in North Carolina. Through his work with organizations like ECAHF, he brought STEM to the forefront of local youth development initiatives. His dedication to creating enriching, inspiring educational experiences has sparked the interest of countless students, many of whom might have not previously considered STEM careers. This individual's ability to bring together communities, educational institutions, and military leaders to support STEM initiatives is remarkable. By highlighting the symbiotic relationship between military and local communities, he has fostered a deeper understanding of how careers in STEM can lead to meaningful and impactful works in fields such as aviation, engineering, and defense. His efforts to encourage students to view STEM not only as an academic pursuit, but as a gateway to real-world opportunities that can shape both of their futures and the future of our nation. Through his leadership in summer engineering camps, his involvement with ECAHF, he's directly impacted the lives of countless young people, inspiring them to pursue careers in STEM and to see the world through a lens of curiosity and innovation. His advocacy and mentorship have created new opportunities for youth engagement in STEM and will have lasting effects on the communities and future generations of Eastern North Carolina. I want to be perfectly clear, we're not presenting an award tonight. That's going to happen in a couple of months at a big event at the SMT Center. But when we found out that this recipient was going to be receiving this award, we didn't want to go the traditional way of sending a phone call, sending an email. We wanted to make the announcement here at the epicenter of his efforts. So please join me tonight in congratulating the 2025 North Carolina SMT Center Champion of STEM, Major General Tom Bratton, United States Marine Corps, retired. This is your letter, and a letter, some very nice letters some people wrote about you.
That kind of screwed me up. Donnie, would you like to do the invocation now?
Will you join me as we pray? Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for this night. Thank you for the celebration that we have here to get ready for another year of planning and preparing for the STEM projects that come out of this night and go through the whole year. Thank you, Father, for all of those that are gathered here, working for the kids, trying to make sure that they have every opportunity before them. And now I pray that you'll bless this food to our body. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you, sir. This award, by the way, is for the STEM board and for Pam and the folks that run this place. Because without this, we couldn't do squat. I mean, that's the way it is. And FRC, who invites us to play in all their games over there, which are really just fun. First of all, I'd like to thank Smoke and the Flame for a great meal and great service. So, big thanks. And I still want to thank our title sponsors, our hospital who's done incredible stuff for all of us. WCTI News Channel 12. Donnie's probably had to run back to the studio so he can do that. And then my wife, who drags me along with her, and so she's done well as well. Now, for what you're doing here. You come tonight to learn about a really interesting topic. And I mentioned New Jersey before because all those folks are going bonkers. They don't know what's in the air above them. It's just clouds. I mean, you can't get too nervous about it, but they do. So you've probably already, since you all are avid readers, you probably read the bio in the program for Guy Nelson. It's really pitiful. I mean, it's way, way too short. There's no meat in it. So I asked him for some meat. And he said, no, I don't have any meat to give you. So just say whatever you want to say. I said, well, you might regret that. He said, it's okay. If it's not the truth, I can always take care of it. So I just say what you want. So here we go. He was born. He went to school where he was constantly in trouble for talking too much. Some things never change. No, I can't say that. He was a dreamer, but he dreamed about weird things. He dreamed about going really fast and blowing things up. So he goes off and he gets a degree and starts working. I thought, well, that's a good idea. Aviation flight management, that's good for going fast. Not so good for blowing stuff up. But he did that, sort of used that as a background kind of a thing. Got a commercial license. I guess he can fly pretty well. He flew a Harrier, which is not the easiest thing in the world to do. So, but at some point he decided that it was time to grow up. So he decided, yeah, I can't just have dreams. I really got to do something. So I need to grow up, be a man, fly a little faster, and learn things how to blow things up better than we used to. So he became a Marine, flew an AV-8 Harrier, looked for some other challenges, got involved in electronic warfare, and one of his friends here tonight told me that he was really, really sharp in his classes. He was second to the last in his class for EW. I don't know what that means, but that's hard to believe. But it's a friend, so the friend would never lie to me. So he flew a while. Then he became a weapons and tactics instructor on strange things that don't have pilots in them. Why anybody would want to go around with something that flies and doesn't have a pilot is beyond me, but he does. So now he just runs a successful business that kind of makes big boy toys, which are really not toys, but they make big toys and things, and they think through what the future might need. and it's a company called Italo LLC. And I'll let him explain what all they do over there, and I'm sure he's got that on his agenda, or he does now. So we'll see. But he's working with us now on the ECAHF as an ECAHF board member, and Guy brought some energy and a heck of a good background for what we're trying to do. He loves kids, got a few, but he really, really loves kids, and he loves the experience of trying to share what he knows with them, which he said normally takes 2 or 3 minutes. I don't think he can do it that fast, but I don't know him that well yet, so we'll see. But I think he really does enjoy working with kids, and perhaps that's because he's still a kid. But I'll let you decide that after he talks tonight. So stand by, buckle your seat belts on your chairs, and it's my pleasure to present Guy Nelson.
Thank you very much, sir. I swear we did not coordinate slides ahead of time because Tom actually took a lot of my material and he advanced my slides without me even asking. So at the board meeting where he asked me to be a backup to a NASA astronaut that he had already promised all of you would come and hear about, he then followed up Words Huber. So anybody who's here last year knows that Words gave a great speech, very well polished, very refined, phenomenal. That's not me. I flew with Words Huber on one of my last flights before soloing in a Harrier, and the debrief was basically, you're going to do fine. I didn't know what I was doing. I almost died. So that setup really, propelled me here to talk about this. So I'm here to talk about drones. I have pictures of whales. Nothing makes any sense, but we're going to go fast because I want you guys to stay awake, and I've got a lot of pictures and very large fonts, so we should be okay. All right, so Aviation Heritage Foundation here. We made this mission statement about 3 months ago to finalize this. So we want to honor aviation history, and we're looking to inspire and cultivate the next generation of aviation leaders. I said, wow, mission statements are great. I'm going to use it to guide me through my presentation here to talk to you about drones in our ecosystem and how they may have an impact in the future of Eastern North Carolina. So here's a picture of me flying in New Jersey. Nope, sorry, okay. See, I told you Tom had my slides. But life before drones. We're going to split it up, life before drones, life after drones. So life before drones looks like this for me. I was alive, as Tom said. I was born. Slow planes. I went to Lewis University. Went to Lewis University because I happened to go there as a senior in high school to watch a soccer game, and a P-51 took off right next to the soccer field where the runway was and flew right over the aviation building. And I said, I should fly airplanes. So I started off in slow airplanes. There's me with my slow hat on. You'll find that I'm not very good at taking pictures, so for my 250 hours of flight time as a civilian and $60,000 in student loans, this is like the only picture I have of me actually flying an airplane. After that, I decided to join the Marine Corps and fly fast airplanes. So I took stereotypical fast guy photos, standing next to a jet, wearing enormous wings. And then I continued on to fly British airplanes, which are confusing, and I would recommend against it. However, you get to fly cool things like the Aviate Harrier here. That's where I met Words for the first time. Then moved on to VMA 223, the Bulldogs, and had a deployment. And finished out my time in 2013. Had a great wife, great family, rounding up my 20s. Everything made sense. My job made sense. I knew what I was doing. Confirmed by this photo here with Jennifer Aniston, because she knows what she's talking about. And then I got orders because my wife, who was devastated when we got orders to come to Cherry Point, because she's a professional trainer and rider in the equestrian world, and she didn't think she could do that here. By 2013, she had basically said, I'm not leaving, so you can figure that out. So I had two options. One, be a forward air controller at Camp Lejeune and walk around the woods. I didn't really want to do that. So I got orders over to VMU 2. And I didn't know how much that was going to change my life, actually. There's a whole lot of things that made sense, and then I got to VMU 2, and nothing made sense. So 2013 started my quest with drones, and I've continued to ask these series of questions starting in 2013, and I haven't stopped asking those questions. So first, what is a drone? Didn't know the answer to that, but here's an FAA definition of what a UAS system is. That's not very helpful. It says a lot of words. Second is what an unmanned aerial vehicle is. I'll give you a second to read the last 4 words of that sentence, because my next question was, on an aircraft? Like, what do you mean on an aircraft? That doesn't make any sense. I was like, that was what on an aircraft looks like. But it turns out there's a guy named Burt Rutan, great inventor of airplanes. He actually made a UAV. In order to test it with the FAA, he put a guy on top of the airplane. So I said, okay, on the aircraft, that makes sense. So next question was, what do they fly? I don't even know. Anybody who's familiar with Cherry Point would know that a Harrier squadron, the VMU squadrons, like that far away from each other on a map, maybe a half mile at best, had almost no interaction with VMU. So they fly the RQ-7 at the time. I said, okay, that's small. Seems like I should be able to manage that. Not sure how I'm going to fit in it, but we'll figure that out. So then, when did they start flying these things? Pink Floyd. What do you mean Pink Floyd? June 1984 is when the Marine Corps started flying UAVs. The squadron that would become VMU-2, the first unmanned squadron in the Marine Corps, started in 1984. I was 3 months old, so I didn't hear this album at the time, but they flew the Pioneer for the majority of their career. Anybody point one out in close proximity? We got one hanging here, so piece of history. So I understand when they started flying, and then I wanted to know, like, who are these people? This is actually a squadron photo from my good friend Mike Donlin, who's sitting over there, from 2023. There's about 150 Marines in this photo. At the time of 2013, when I showed up, there was almost double that amount of Marines, and I tried to figure out, why would you need that many Marines to fly an airplane that doesn't have anybody inside of it? So that is a continuous question, but hopefully we'll get a couple answers to that as we go through. And then why, into the history portion of our tour through UAS. So why? 4 primary reasons that I will provide that I think are the transformations through UAS and why we fly them. First one, death is hard to reverse. Anybody have a guess at the first year that when the first UAV flight is accredited to, year time frame? Throw one out. Good guess, 1917. So 1917, this thing goes up because we're in the middle of World War I. We've been flying aircraft in warfare for the first time. And after the first couple iterations of doing strafing practice by putting the youngest lieutenant up in an airplane and shooting at him, they said that's not a survivable way to do this. And then they also think the other thing that we did was attach bombs to them and then kamikaze them in, right? So those things don't sit well with pilots typically. So they came up with the first remotely piloted aircraft in England in 1917, which is pretty remarkable considering that picture, only a couple dozen miles away from where we sit today, only happened 14 years previous to that. So the history of drones and the history of aviation are, for all intents and purposes, equal. The second piece that we have is pilots don't shrink well. So as we get into the Vietnam era, we have aircraft like this, the Firebee, which was a great little reconnaissance airplane that could fly into missions that the manned aircraft couldn't get to and get undetected, to be able to avoid missiles, etc. But who's going to fly it? How are we going to fly it? The first few attempts to teach rodents to fly, they didn't work out well, mostly because they died right after they completed flight school because it takes that long to train a pilot. So their lifespan wasn't long enough. And G-suits that small are really difficult to make. So we moved on to flying airplanes with computers. And here's an example of the follow-ons to the Firebee actually being carried by manned aircraft to be launched and flown in to do reconnaissance missions in Vietnam. Our third iteration is moving forward into history, and humans have limitations like digestive systems and sleep. But the technology has now moved on to the point where you can fly this airplane, the MQ-9 Reaper, which is now aboard Cherry Point, for well longer than anyone could tolerate to sit inside the airplane, with some exceptions. But this aircraft is capable in different configurations of flying 20, 24 hours, and there's further iterations that will fly even longer than that. So now we need to find a different way to operate these aircraft. And it continues into the logistics side of it. This is the K-MAX aircraft. It was out in Afghanistan when myself and a few others were there. This aircraft was able to sling load 6,000 pounds of cargo, do it about 30,000 pounds of cargo a day. Only 2 aircraft that were operational at the time, and they delivered millions of pounds of cargo, typically at night while other crews were getting the rest and sleep. The robot doesn't care, it just gets to keep on going along. So in terms of having the limitations of the human, in terms of our bodily and sleep requirements, all those other things, the robot doesn't care, the robot continues. So I know what Mark Mino is thinking right now. He knows me, and he knows I can count past 4, and there's only 3 things on there, but we're doing plot development here, Mark, so we need to get to the 4th one, so you need to wait. So the 4th one comes from my time at WTI. Weapons and Tactics Instructor Course, as the good general said, that's where pilots who already have a big head get a bigger head, and you go and you learn advanced things. And we do things that don't even make sense half the time, like take artillery rounds and shoot them over airplanes that are flying underneath them. That doesn't make a lot of sense. Helicopters fly close together. That doesn't make any sense. Jet guys do cool things like drop bombs. That's obviously great. And then, we do it all at night. And then you get about 6 weeks of some of the most intense training that you're going to get anywhere in the world. And I left it with that little patch on my shoulder, standing next to Chunks Burns. I don't know if anybody knows him here, but great human. God rest his soul. Actually, I think he's still alive, but it's a miracle. So I sat there unfulfilled in terms of I was able to do things as a UAS WTI student, doing the most complex things I've ever done with a robot, and for some reason I couldn't come to terms with that, of like, why could I do it so much better not in the airplane than I could inside the airplane. We did things that I was able to track over the course of 6 hours of flight, the entire tactical scenario, had situational awareness of everything that was going down, all written down, and there were times flying a Harrier where I didn't know where anybody was except the guy I was trying not to hit, right? So I figured out that the 4th thing is pilots are the problem. I kept trying to put myself inside the airplane, and I kept trying to make the airplane the center of the system, the center of the weapon system, and I kept trying to view it from that perspective. And that is where the fallacy comes in, because really, a drone is just a network of computers, and one of the computers happens to have wings attached to it. And if you approach the system from that perspective, you now get to have things like this, the Combined Air Operations Center in Qatar, massive room. All of those people can be on your team while you're flying the airplane. That's pretty cool. You can have a whole team of Air Force intelligence officers who are specialized in everything that they do, can also be on your team, and it doesn't cost you anything. Couldn't do that inside of a Harrier. So when you look, the perspective change is, why do I need 150 people to fly an airplane that doesn't have any people inside of it? And you flip it on its head and you say, why are you going to send up an airplane with only 1 person inside of it when you can send up an airplane that has 150 people supporting it? That's a way different way to think about that problem. So that is the 4th iteration there. And the thing that changed my career and changed what I thought was going to be an airline pilot to starting a business and working on hard problems to solve UAV, what the future of UAVs and the future of drones in the Marine Corps and the military looks like. So if you're continuing to try and put yourself inside and make the airplane on the left, or yep, your left, be the center of the universe, you'll never get the maximum out of it. And I was exposed to people who showed me the outside, what was possible as we go into future different professions, different tool sets, etc., in the right side of that problem. So aviation gets a new role. This man here, anybody know this guy? He's local. Dave Johnson. He would hate me for putting up this picture, because Dave Johnson is like the epitome of a cool dude wearing board shorts and flip-flops, and he posed for that photo. I don't know why he did it. But Dave Johnson, Duke University professor, I met him in 2015. And in 2015, he showed me a way to think about drones that changed the way that I approach this subject for the rest of my life now. And that is, you can think about, I always thought about drones as an industry in terms of the purpose of whatever you were doing, or aviation as an industry in terms of the purpose of what you were doing was to fly the airplane. Think an airline, think the military's operations. And that will naturally lead you as you think towards the future of drones, of things like this, of air taxis, or massive cargo planes that will, or massive cargo blimps that will float across the ocean and deliver tons and tons of cargo at days of speed way faster than a ship could, or even into Starship and uncrewed space systems that will go out. And that's great, and I'm not here to talk to you about that specific side of it because that's the whole industry of itself, and there's business cases and all kinds of things that go into that. But if you start to think of drones as a tool, now you turn this DJI Phantom, which in about 2013, 2014 really revolutionized the way that people approach drones and how accessible it was. You now get to take drones and aviation and turn it into a biologist. You get to turn it into a farmer. You get to turn it into a resource that a cardiac surgeon is using. And you get to turn it into something for a first responder. And we're going to talk through a couple of those iterations of how those are happening here today and inspiring the next generation of users and aviation enthusiasts and aviation professionals here in Eastern North Carolina. So first up, I showed you that picture. That was on my title slide. I went to Duke University's campus, and there was that picture, or one like it, I don't know if it was exactly that one, of a humpback whale. And the bubbles, these are sequential, so the bubbles, the whale is curving around underneath in a spiral, releasing little bubbles of air, pushing the krill up to the surface, and then it breaches and grabs it. And in terms of a view from above, there's literally no better picture of directly above what is happening here. And it just blew my mind that they figured that out, and it was about 2012 as they first got these pictures to do that. And they got it via a drone by getting out on a boat like that in the Arctic Ocean and hand-launching drones off of a boat, figuring out that the boat moves, so if you lose link with the drone and it tries to go back to where it got launched from, that's water now and no longer a boat, and solving all of these crazy problems that I had never thought of approaching. And then here, they're doing it by just taking the size, and now instead of having to tag a whale and get next to a whale and risk being blown off their boat and all those other things, they can just take a picture of it, use the math to the right of it, and get a rough size estimation of how big the whale is and all those other things, and be able to take the studies and move on and be able to track them all these other ways and do it with a level of efficiency that they never could before. In farming, take that same EB drone that he was holding in that picture, launch it in a field. It's a styrofoam airplane that carries about $10,000 worth of cameras on it, and they can map that field. And now the farmer can see, in this case, this is water. They can see where the hydration was working, where it's not, where they need to add more water, and they can switch out those cameras to now be talking about where there's invasive species so that they can do a customized drone spray and put chemical only where the chemical's needed to minimize yield or minimize usage and reduce the amount of spill off and runoff that happens from traditional crop dusting methods. In first responder community, you have, this is called DFR, Drone as a First Responder. And this here is initiatives that's happening all around the country right now, where when you call 911, the first thing that happens is a drone gets launched. And Winston-Salem had a great experience with this, where they got a 911 call at a hang-up, and they launched the drone to see, where the hang-up came from. And when they looked, there was a woman's house that was on fire, and she panicked and hung up the phone. But they were able to get the fire department that was just around the corner over to her house in ways that was much faster than if they had waited for somebody else to happen. Still lost the house, unfortunately, but you see the utility in the response mechanism. You also have examples in Hurricane Helene where we were able to use drones to understand where the damage was, where it needed to be prioritized with regards to supplies and crews to go clean up roads, etc. Dr. Starks here is at Duke University, and she's trying to get after how long it takes somebody to get an AED after they've had a cardiac arrest, where in the certain situations, every minute of time that goes on is a 10% reduction in survivability. So 10 minutes means you're dead. And she's able to, using drones here, deliver those, get the average delivery time down from 5 minutes to 3 minutes, and I'd take a 20% increase in survivability. Forestry, here, able to take similar drones. All the orange is trees that are tall enough that need to be, that can be harvested, so you can understand yield and before you have to go in and clear cut something. In the case of a forest fire, the imagery on the left is smoke obscured through electro-optical or normal camera image, but on the right, the yellow boxes indicate where the hot spots are and where the firefighters need to go to respond to it. And then after the fire, you can take a drone like this that can take 1,600 seed pods and drop about 30 acres of seeds to replant and reforest in a day, and multiply that by however many drones you can afford to put out there, and you can actually make a massive impact on reforestation. And then the military side of it here, we've had the Marine Corps and Army and other services flying assets like the Puma here for well over a decade, as well as on ships and deploying our Muse that go out. They often have all these assets that are shown above. And then to last year in 2024, it was our first graduating class of Marines that will get an MOS and go directly to an infantry battalion, and their primary weapon will be a drone, not a rifle. They're supposed to be the drone operators for an infantry battalion. That just happened right down the road at Lejeune just last year. So all these industries are extremely relevant to Eastern North Carolina, and hence why I picked them. But they're going into the idea of what does the future look like, or what does continued innovation beyond what is happening today. Disclaimer, I don't have any insider information, so this theoretical scenario that I'm putting out here is not me trying to say that this is what's going to happen. It's just a natural extension of the things that are here and the likely use cases that are there. So nobody report me or try and say that I'm doing something that's inappropriate. So simple situation here. The Red Cross is roughly where River Dunes is. If those who are familiar, they have a nice marina there. An individual, through his smartwatch, gets a notification of a cardiac arrest that's happening, and before he's able to hit the ground, his watch is already through a satellite beamed down to the drone as a first responder aircraft that is stationed at the local local volunteer fire station, and to Carolina East that there's a cardiac arrest that they need to prepare for. That drone launches. At the same time, the spin up is happening of a uncrewed air ambulance that has one crew, and that crew is the paramedic. There are no pilots, just the paramedic. That's going to go with that aircraft. Knowing where they need to go and how they need to get there, they talk to Cletus Burks because he's the base CO and he runs everything. He does all of it all by himself. That's not true. Because that blue line right there is roughly where the airspace, that's restricted airspace that his command owns, would restrict and prevent a flight into that. So it needs to be cleared through Cletus's people first. So as the aircraft is launching, they've already got their cleared route to get into the cardiac arrest. The drone that launched from just a few miles away has already gotten overhead and built a 3D point cloud of the closest landing zone. So that way, en route, they know exactly where they're going to land and what obstructions might need to be there, and the drone can already account for that as the air ambulance. And in this situation here, again, theoretical, but rough estimates of time, 3 minutes for the crew, for the paramedic to get onto the air ambulance, 12 minutes for a 25-minute flight, roughly 120 knots, 5 minutes on the ground to put somebody inside that aircraft and get them secured so they can move back out, 12 minutes again, and total time of 32 minutes. There's your Google Maps for how long it takes just to drive from River Dunes to Carolina East. 45 minutes, and that's after they got there. Obviously, if Mayor Lewis was driving, go fast, don't die, he'd get you there quicker. But, reasonableness there. Everyone's favorite hurricane season. We have our beloved Cherry Point at the center serving as a hub. As C-130 crews or C-17 crews are unloading supplies and equipment to be able to provides assistance as needed. We have fixed-wing cargo drones launching out to places like Ocracoke and Hatteras that already have existing runways and infrastructure to be able to land those aircraft. Meanwhile, rotary wing drones, cargo drones, are going to places that are a little bit more obscure, or not obscure, but harder to get to, like Hoboken, Aurora, et cetera. And you have a combined solution to be able to get supplies to where they're needed that don't rely on roads. Meanwhile, from the boat docks at Cherry Point, they launch a uncrewed surface vessel, which is there to map from Cherry Point down through the intercoastal into the Morehead City Harbor and look for obstructions so that larger container ships can come in and be able to put more resupply and more assets on the deck. And it's all controlled via robots, and that part's not going to happen. But so this is all there and providing assistance when it's needed. So that's just a quick intro or a quick thought experiment as to the future and those type of things that could happen. Again, don't hold me to it. In 10 years, I could be completely wrong and none of this is happening. But it's all possible. It's all in the realm of feasible today. Lastly, at ECAHF, we want to cultivate the leaders in aerospace. For those who don't know, this is the North Carolina Aerospace Quarter. This is a dedicated economic development, workforce development partnership that goes from federal all the way down to local entities, nonprofits, et cetera, that seeks to create a space or a corridor of excellence from Goldsboro all the way down through Cherry Point to encourage aviation and build an aviation workforce that leads the nation. Inside of that ecosystem, you have the bases of Eastern North Carolina MAGTF, of Cherry Point, Lejeune, New River. You have Fort Bragg, Fort Liberty, Fort Bragg. You have even up to Elizabeth City with the Coast Guard. Of note, you have 15,000. I don't run the numbers, but estimated 15,000 personnel a year leave out of the military from all those installations combined. That's a huge amount of workforce that transitions here and has a potential to stay here and be part of this ecosystem. So what does it take to get to that? What does it take to do that? First, we need human development. Education, K through retirement. I hate to break it, but AI is a real thing and it's not going to go away. So if we want to sit here and pretend that every job that exists today will exist in 10 years, we can. I don't think that's going to help anybody. So there's plenty of things that need to be looked at, and there's plenty of jobs that exist today where somebody may not have it and they need to be retrained as to what they're going to do and how are we going to do it. A great example for that is one of the employees at Atalo started life as a generator mechanic, switched to UAVs, and now is a software developer, and he's 32 years old. So there's a whole lot of life that can happen, and the thought of education being just from K through 12 or K through 16 is not complete. Additionally, the talent retention. How do we keep the 15,000? Where's the junior Marine program, or single Marine program? Are they still here? Okay, as the father of a teenage daughter, you're going to stay in the single Marine program for as long as possible, right? We got to keep these folks here, but in order to stay here, you have a lot of Marines, a lot of Army, a lot of sailors that transition out of here that if they had a job, they'd stay. And how do we make it so that they have a job so that they will stay versus having to leave to seek employment for their family? Next is ecosystem development. And I use the word ecosystem specifically because it's not just aviation that this is going to affect. This goes from everything from the cultural experiences and the things that people working in this place buy, like cars and food and all those other things, but government and regulation and policy. How are we going to do this? How are we going to make this airspace corridor that's not just MRO focused and maintenance, repair, and overhaul focused and traditional aviation focused, but includes the UAVs and the growing ecosystem that those are creating, and nobody doubts the future of UAVs. Education, not from what I just said before, but education in that it takes years to develop a community college curriculum, a university curriculum, even a high school curriculum. So if we're not able to tell the schools what they need to be teaching for, they're left guessing and always reactionary, and it takes 3 to 5 years for what they're developing to have a student go through an entire high school career or college career on those things. So we have to get out in front of them so they know what to teach. Industry and business, we need the backbone to support the government that is here with regards to not only the supplies, but the services that go along with all these assets that are going to get developed and built and MRO'd and all those things in this ecosystem. That's not all going to be done by the government. And I think, as we all know what's going on in D.C. right now, that's certainly not the case in the next 4 years. And then infrastructure. As I talked before, the drone is a network of computers. Networks of computers consume data. So how do we get the fiber requirements? How do we get the power requirements to run servers that can handle the advances in computing? All those things. And I promise there's like one slide left. Okay. How do we do those things? Well, we do it by everyone here. You're already here because either you were told to in the case of the Marines, or you wanted to be here, which is what we're looking for, because you care about not only the ecosystem, but you care about the future that's going to be there. I talk a lot about 2040, and I have people look at me funny. I have a 10-year-old who he'll be Johnny New Guy in 2040. What's his job going to be? And selfishly, I want to keep him here in Eastern North Carolina. So I look at 2040 all the time. He picks his nose and does other gross things, but he's 2040. So engaging. There is not a single person here who doesn't have a skill or a piece of knowledge that they can't share with somebody who's either coming up through the workforce or coming up through the education pipeline. Our own Ed Hughes is pictured here. He's teaching students at our STEM camp about an aircraft that flew before their parents were born, maybe even their grandparents were born. But the fundamentals of how that system works haven't changed all that much in terms of the way a rotor head works or the way the structural components of a helicopter are put together. Those are all generally the same. So there's still something to learn from history and all those other things. Whether it's a accounting background, a management background, a lawyer, you name it, all those things are needed by the ecosystem to come through. We have a lawyer from FRC East in the house right now. She probably won't raise her hand, but those types of things are all there for the aviation infrastructure. So engage with students and engage with the youth and help them understand what their workforce looks like. As I said, I learned about aviation from a P-51 flying over a soccer game and took on $60,000 of student loan without ever talking to a pilot. That's probably not a smart idea, right? Finally paid it off, right? So engage and teach somebody something. Secondly, support. There are numerous individuals here from multiple STEM and education outreach centers. There's multiple individuals here who are part of the community college system and our education system. They need your support. This is a great picture right here, FRC East engaging with teachers from around the ecosystem to help them understand what they need to teach their students to be relevant in the future workforce. So when they stick their arm up and say, we need somebody to help talk about X, Y, or Z, listen and try and even make a connection even if you're not the one who can do it. There's enough in this room right here to make a difference and support those people. And then finally, participate. I have that photo up of the paramedic. The person who's going to fly in that uncrewed ambulance as a flight paramedic. There's already things happening today at ECU that takes a special operations medic who's specially trained, bring them into ECU, and in 1 year get them a nursing degree, and that individual is the perfect person to get in a crazy airplane with nobody else flying it because they're already in SOF and they do weird things. So the special operations community there. So that's happening today. The person who is probably in somebody's high school class who's going to go into the Army and do 4 years and be a SOF medic and come out and graduate from that program is the one who's going to get on it in 2040. Additionally, we have the airspace pieces of it. We've got organizations across the state that are trying to work through how we're going to integrate all this stuff, how we're going to work through the policy, how we're going to work through the sensors that need to detect all these things. That's happening right now and is in experimentation phases happening right now. And then additionally from the workforce side of transitioning to a more technological or more IT-based infrastructure for aviation. There's a ton of knowledge in this room on how to take an airplane and turn it to bare metal. There's not a ton of experience around here on how to do that when the airplane is mostly computers outside F-35 and some other things. So the ground side of a drone is a massive opportunity for this ecosystem to dig into and provide solutions for. So there's people who know how to do that here and participate, engage, and help other people learn those things. So out of this conversation, I was really hoping to, one, contextualize drone. I think drone is a very nebulous term that means a lot of different things to a lot of different people, so hopefully I gave you a way to think about that a little bit differently. Two was identify some current uses of drones and their technology and where some future operations might be. And then finally, challenge you to help us write the next chapter in aviation history here in Eastern North Carolina. So with that, I appreciate your time, and I appreciate your support for ECAHF and all the things that we try and do here in Eastern North Carolina. Thank you very much. To do what? Oh, question or two. Sure, I'll answer. I don't know if anybody else, somebody might get booed for asking one, but I'll happily take a question or two. If anybody has one. I'm not offended if you don't. Catch me afterwards if you do. The bar is still open. Is that the answer to your question? I'm sorry. No, go ahead, sir. That's a great question. Very interesting piece on the overseas part of it. There's elements and there's types of aircraft that here in the U.S. we are very accustomed to, and aircraft like that or the RQ-7 that I initially started flying when I did drones are often seen as inferior in the military, the U.S. military complex, because there's bigger, badder options that do cooler things. In terms of foreign countries that we've engaged with all through the U.S. government, there's a program called Foreign Military Sales. You get to engage with folks like Oman. We sent an individual to Oman to train them how to use some of their assets by the Navy's direction. And to them, that drone that was smaller than that one, that was the best they were going to be able to afford and the best they were going to be able to do. And to thank him, they sent him back with frankincense and myrrh, which is like biblical type of response, right? But you get a very large appreciation because they're able to now have access to aircraft and capabilities and sensors that they couldn't afford if they had to buy a manned aviation platform. And we're seeing that trickle down all the way through to things that are happening in Ukraine and other places, and we don't need to go there. But there's a big market overseas, and there's a lot of allies that need our help and experience on how to do that. Last one, yes, sir. Typically, yes. Obviously, there's exceptions, and you could go with, one plan to communicate, and it will fail probably. But for instance, on the MQ-9 that is currently operated out here, it has capability to be controlled directly in terms of antenna to antenna, seeing each other from the ground to the airplane. It also has the capability to be controlled over the horizon through satellites and some other solutions on there. So redundancy in comm pathways is critical when the only way you get to do anything with a drone is through a comm frequency pathway. So it is certainly a topic for not only the engineering side, but the operations side as well.
So you're looking for guys with double E's, or what do you see mostly in your experience in trade now?
From me or for this area? For me, I need old guys like some of them are sitting over at that table who know things.
They're expendable?
No, I'm joking. But from the perspective of repairing and overhauling things and doing things that are traditional to what a lot of this aviation ecosystem looks like, if you open up a drone, a lot of it is computers, one, and two, on an aircraft like that or something a little bit smaller, they're often designed in ways that make it very hard that if you were to break that wing to repair it because there's wires embedded into it and all this other stuff. So that part of the drone gets taken off and a new one gets put on and you throw the old one away. Obviously, as you scale up to larger and larger aircraft, that becomes less applicable. But the pieces that are in there, the hardware that's in there, the software, the firmware that needs to get updated, needs to be retrofitted, needs to be debugged and overhauled and all those things, those are real needs for drones. That drone right there, from an aerodynamic standpoint, is not obsolete. That wing, straight wing, probably flies really well. The computers inside of it are old as snot, right? So need to update and refit those things in terms of, as we look at longevity of systems and all that, we need to think about aviation a little bit differently in terms of what does a new platform look like. It may be an element that gets changed or a component that gets changed. It may not have to be a whole new program of record. Last one? Oh, two.
Last two.
Last two. I'll always take ETs. Conception. But there are companies like Joby and a few others that are out there. Yep, they're working towards those type of platforms that would fill that role.
Got the workforce that will be required
Mm-hmm.
in this new drone ecosystem. Our current workforce for aviation consists of a lot of engineers and a lot of very skilled tradespeople.
Mm-hmm.
Would this future workforce be heavier on engineers or heavier on skilled tradespeople?
I think that's a yes and yes question that I would like to answer in terms of depends on which aspect of phase of life, phase of design, and then size of aircraft that you're looking to develop. So as you get really small with drones, the physics and the design starts to matter a little bit less than the components that are inside of it. When you can only fly for 20 minutes, you can sit there with inefficient propellers and beat the air to death and get the job done because you only need to fly for 20 minutes. But when you're trying to fly for 24 hours, now the design of the wing and all the aerodynamics and all those pieces that could traditionally go into engineering start to matter, especially if you replace a wing or change a wing and do those things. As you get into the artisan and technician side, I would say our network engineer, different from the other guy, our network engineer started life as a radar mechanic, became a drone guy, is now a network engineer. And the two of them together will sit there and take a motorcycle apart or mod a Jeep or all those other things, and they use their troubleshooting skills as technicians, and they've just turned it a little bit different. Instead of thinking, why isn't the fuel getting into the combustion chamber, they're just looking at, well, why isn't the data getting through that router? And they're magicians at what they do when they've taken their brain and they're already tinkerer, problem-solving brain and turned it against a different problem. So I think the term technician doesn't have to mean how well you can lay fiber or how well you can bend metal. I think as you look at the future, there's going to be very hardcore technical requirements from the side of like building a quantum computer or doing some really in-depth coding. But the side that is in the regular operations of the equipment, I think is well in the realm of most technical type individuals when they get oriented to the problem correctly. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Can I turn this off? I think you'll all agree that we've learned a great deal tonight about, don't go anywhere yet, about the future, and
Hopefully I didn't make it all
stand
up.
still. Was it true?
I think so.
Okay. But just the future, where things are going to go, what we need to do to prepare ourselves, how things like ECAHF that we're working on now, how do we get youngsters involved in it, and how do we get people our age who start saying, yeah, these are the things that are really important. We need to bone up and start going some places, and the school systems need to start teaching things that would make us more useful for that future kind of thing. But great work, and let me see. Ah, yes.
That's a very festive bag for you, Tom.
It is. Oh, you don't want. You're welcome to open up if you would like to.
Do I need to read the card out loud, or does that?
Well, you don't need to, but
Okay.
you're welcome to if you wish.
I'm going to read. That's the polite thing to do, to read it first. Well, thank you very much, ECAHF members. I appreciate that. I was at the board meeting. We didn't talk about this, so I'm just saying. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. This is fantastic. It is a ECAHF windbreaker jacket. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Super
Thank you.
job. Just right. Just right. Now, I'd like to thank our sponsors one more time, because without them, we can't do things like this. There are our title sponsors, Carolina East, WCTI, Susan Broughton and her husband. Gold sponsors are the City of Havelock, Interbanks Media, Naval Systems, Inc., the Flame Catering. Silver sponsors, Chevy of New Bern, Duke Energy, Edward Jones of Havelock, Mike Sprague, the Harold H. Bate Foundation, Richard and Wanda Hazlett, Legacy Private Client Services, and bronze sponsors, Atolo Defense, EWN Coastal Carolina Regional Airport, Draken International, and JCTM, and of course all of our table sponsors who just did a great job. So a big hand for all of our sponsors, please.